What's up guys, Ryan here from Mudgunner. Today I wanted to talk about an interesting topic. So it's election year and I'm not the most political person and I don't, talk about it too much, but one thing that politics does do is change the gun values of things, and just over time gun values change naturally. So I would say I'm pretty knowledgeable on gun values overall, and I think I've made some pretty good predictions over the years. As far as my experience, this year will be my 10th year in the gun industry and specifically working for a store that buys, sells, and trades guns. So I would say I have a lot of experience with secondhand guns, knowing the market because it's my job. And I've bought a lot of multi-hundred gun collections for the shops I work at. Not for me personally, but for the stores I work at. And in those collections, I've tried to acquire guns over the years to add to my collection because I'm a gun collector myself. So I would say if you are interested in learning about, the potential of gun values or what I look for in the market, I'd stay tuned for the video. I think I've made some pretty good decisions over the years, and maybe I can make you good decisions. And who knows, maybe it makes you money down the road. But let's kind of get into it. So the guns I have next to me are some of my AKs, and some of you guys may know AK values went up dramatically over the last few years, but they didn't always used to be that way. So I have a 5.56 Arsenal here. This one's unloaded. But what I have here is an Arsenal SLR 106. This is a 5.56 AK, and it's a pretty sweet AK. Right now, if I had to guess what this thing's worth, I'd guess maybe around like $2,000. Maybe more because I've changed the furniture on it. I bought this factory bone stock with all the polymer furniture, so I had a polymer side folding stock, polymer handguard, and grip. And yeah, I kind of retroed it out with the, I guess, crank style side folder, the wire stock. And this is a pretty sick AK. My button's stiff. So it's got the side folding stock on there, and it looks pretty sick. It looks like a 5.45 AK, so an AK-74, but this one is in 5.56, but this is a 5.56 Bakelite mag, and you can tell it's 5.56 because they colored it black, so that's just their designation for it. But very cool AK, and I bought it at a decent time. I want to say I paid around $600 for the gun, which was a decent deal at the time. At the time, brand new, they were about, I think, 12 to 1400-ish, and you could find used ones, I'd say pretty consistently, for 9 to 1,000. So I got a decent price of around $700, and even if my price is a little bit better, right, because I work in the store, I have a little bit of advantages over some people, but even if you paid $900 for this at that time, it's now worth double that money. So just one thing to think about. I've acquired a few Arsenals, and I never lost out on them. Now, I'm not one to just buy guns and sell guns. I rarely sell guns. I really like just adding, but I'd say my net worth in guns has gone up because of decisions like that. So this one right here, this is a Sega 7.62x39, and this one, a little bit better of a deal. I always thought Russian AKs were cool because in my head I'm like, oh, the original Russian AK. I should get a Russian AK. I don't remember what these were going for brand new, but I paid about $500 for this gun, minus the aim point, but I paid about $500 for this Sega 7.62x39, and it's because like it had the AR style furniture on it, which I think was less desirable at that time. This stock has like a spring in there, so it compresses when you shoot, which makes it kind of funky. But yeah, I paid about $500 for this gun, and if you know anything about AKs, you'll know that this is probably also anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000. I haven't looked at the values of these recently, but unfortunately, with Russia and Ukraine going at it, it boosted the price of all the Russian AKs because we are no longer importing them. So I bought this maybe 6-ish years ago. But yeah, I paid about $500, and obviously it's gone up in value since then. So again, this video is going to basically be my predictions for at least this year as far as the gun market goes, and then maybe values over the next few years. But I would say AKs right now are kind of in this weird boat because the ammo is hard to get. So if you're looking for an AK for shootability, honestly, I say just go AR right now, because AK ammo, we used to sell 7.62x39 ammo for $5 a box for 20 rounds, and that was considered the cheaper of the guns to shoot because AR ammo was about $7 per 20 rounds. And I mean, these prices sound like they're like decades ago. This was only like 5-6 years ago, so not even that long ago. Yeah, AKs used to be the cheap ones to shoot, but right now I'd say if you're trying to get into a cost-effective gun, AK is not the way to go because the ammo is so hard to get. I think the ammo will become more readily available and cheaper as more countries are making it, but right now it is not the best bang for the buck as far as cost goes. But gun-wise, if I had to make a guess as what guns would go up in value, I would say, honestly, if you can get Russian AKs for under $2,000, that's probably a safe number if you know you want one. I don't know if they'll go, past like the $4,000 mark or whatnot, but I would say if you can get them under for $2,000 right now, and I see like right now we're in a soft part of the gun market, but with it being election year, I think closer to election time, guns will go back up in value. So yeah, Russian AKs for under $2,000 is a decent deal right now. As far as arsenals go, you can still get milled arsenals, but what's weird about Arsenal is they're a Bulgarian AK. Their stamped guns used to be the cheap guns and the milled guns used to be expensive. Now it's kind of flopped. The milled guns brand new are still expensive, but now a used stamped gun costs more than a new milled gun. But before, it was the other way around. Those guns were all day under $1,000 used. I had so many opportunities to buy the 545 version of that. I had like probably 10 to 20 opportunities to buy 545s. I just never wanted that caliber. And even we used to sell the cases of 1,080 rounds for like 80 to 100 bucks. And those are also very expensive right now. So yeah, AKs are kind of tricky as far as what I think will go up in value. I would say right now, if you can get anything Romanian for under $600-ish, that's a fair deal. Brand new Romanian AKs are back around 1,000, which is crazy because years ago they were $500-600. The only Romanian AK I got was a Wasser 10, and I paid about $500 for it. I never thought the RPKs or the PSLs would be $2,000 guns. We used to sell those all day for under $1,000. So I missed out on those, but I got other things. So I was always trying to invest my money in like decent guns, but you can't win them all. So AKs are a little tricky. As far as a modern gun that is a very decent deal right now, honestly, AR-15s. AR-15s are kind of like the S&P 500 of the gun market. They're reliable as far as value goes, but I think you got to do it in the right guns. I wouldn't buy all these $200 to $400 build ARs. I mean, I'm not saying they won't go up in value. COVID proved that like almost any gun like skyrocketed in value, but COVID is not a reliable factor as far as values go because that was a one-off. Prior to COVID, I think the last big gun scare would have been Sandy Hook based off of my knowledge, but I wasn't in the gun industry at that time. But COVID really skyrocketed all guns. But with us as Americans, I'd say the AR-15 is always under threat of, government bans and stuff like that. I don't know if they can necessarily ban it, but if you invest in a decent AR, and you can get we're at a point where you can get a $2,000 AR for anywhere from like $1,000 to $1,400. So if you can buy $2,000 ARs for around that price range, I think it's a safe bet as far as retaining your money, but it's not a quick, double your money kind of game. And honestly, like buying guns just to sell them is kind of a tricky thing because if you're doing it too consistently and if you buy a gun with the intent to sell it right then and there, that's frowned upon by the ATF and that can get you in trouble. So when I buy guns, I buy them with the hopes that they'll go up in value, but I rarely ever sell a gun. So something like this, this is a Kunin 357 Mag 1911. I bought this years ago for $1,000. I actually regret not buying a second one because I had the opportunity to buy a second one of these for $1,000 as well. And I already had this one at the time, and I'm like, okay, that's a decent deal. This was at a gun show. I've never bought a gun at the gun show. I should have bought that one. But I was walking around, a guy had one of these on his table, brand new in the box, and they were $1,800 brand new, but I knew they weren't being produced at that time, but the company wasn't officially out of business. And he had it for $1,000. I told him, I was like, that's actually a pretty good deal. I have one of these, and you should be able to sell it no problem. And sure enough, he sold it, but I should have bought it because at one point, like 2 years ago, those were going for about $5,000. Right now, they've kind of settled in the $3,000 range, but it's just another example of guns. Like, that's an American-produced gun, and I don't think there's too many American guns that really skyrocket in value unless they go out of business. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's a great gun. Like this gun, I don't have the greatest reliability with it, but it's a cool kind of collector piece now, and it went up in value. So there's odd guns like that. I would say for the most part, most American guns don't skyrocket in value, but there are those oddball ones that do. So if a company like, let's see, what's a $2,000 1911? So if a company like Stealth Arms makes the Platypus, I haven't actually played with one of these, but I just watched administrative results video on it. If that company decided, or went out of business 2 years from now, all those guns that were custom made, they're going to be worth some money, but they're not worth anything more than what you can buy them for now. So I would say some of those guns, and honestly guns in general, I wouldn't buy them with just the plan that you're going to make a ton of money on them. But I think if you consistently make smart investments and don't buy every single gun brand new, like 99% of my collection I bought secondhand because it's just a better deal for me. But yeah, ARs right now are at one of their lowest points since COVID. You can get Smith & Wesson and Ruger AR-15s, which are like $700 to $800-ish brand new. You can get those pretty consistently right now for about $500. You might get lucky and get them less than that. My girlfriend's dad got one for like $400 for a like new Smith & Wesson AR, And that's a decent deal. I think at any point, if there's any type of scare, that's at least an $800 gun. So potential, to double your money, but it's not like, I wouldn't count on that because ARs are the most mass-produced rifle we have in this country, which I'm happy because it makes them very readily available. But I wouldn't count on making a living off of selling ARs. And especially like people that are looking to get into the business, I'm not saying, starting a new AR business is a bad idea, but research shows that there's so many companies out there already doing it. So unless you come into the market with something that's just as good as everyone else for half the price or 10 times better as everyone else for the same price, I'd say the AR market's kind of hard to compete in, especially like with us as a store, right? If 20 new people or new AR manufacturers come to us every year is like, hey, buy our ARs, it's really hard to buy a new company's AR without knowing who they are. Because if for the same amount of money, we could just order a Daniel Defense or a BCM, why would we go with a company that we don't know when we could buy a company that is consistent value and everyone knows their name? So it's much easier to sell that. So if you're looking to get into the gun industry as a manufacturer, those are just some things to think about. And I don't manufacture guns, but again, I know the market pretty well because it's my job. And then handguns right now, if you can get, $500 to $700 handguns in the 3 to 4 range, I'd say those are always a fair value. Like Glocks are probably the most traded handgun, I would say. Like we get Glocks all day, every day at both of our stores, and they are one of the most traded handguns from what I've seen. I know a lot of people get Glocks in like the $400 range when brand new the Glock is like $600. So those are pretty consistent. I don't like if you get into like a Glock 17 for $400, there's a good chance you're not going to lose your money on it. I mean, if you sell it to stores always have to make a profit, so they're probably not going to pay you $400 for it. I would say import guns are normally a safe bet. Import guns that you like specifically, because if you don't like the gun, chances are most people sell guns before they ever go up in value, and that's why they go up in value later on, is because all the people sold them and then they sold them when they were cheap and then everyone bought them cheap and held on to them. So I think that's one thing. Like Serbian AKs right now are about 1,000 to 1,200-ish, depending on what variation you get. So like the Zastava AK, I think those are decent AKs for the money. And right now I'd say they're our best $1,000 AK. Maybe Kalashnikov is good too. I haven't had too much experience with those, but they're an American-made company, and I'll always kind of choose the import guns as the potential guns that are going to go up in value over the American-made ones. But it's just kind of hit or miss. But if I had to pick a $1,000 AK right now that I think would potentially go up in value like 10 years from now, I'd say Zastava is an okay brand to choose. I mean, 5-ish years ago when they were being imported by Century Arms, they were like $600-700. So they've gone up a few $100 since then. It's kind of weird what's gone up. Like certain brands are going up in price. So like AKs have gone up in price, but ARs are going down in price. One random company like Surefire has bumped their costs on everything, which is interesting to me for like lights, suppressors, stuff like that. I never would have thought the cost of lights would go up, but Surefire's bumped all their prices on stuff like that. As far as American-made companies that are constantly, they're either high or they're average depending on when they're available. Knights Armament is one of those companies where all they do is produce ARs, but so many people are willing to pay 50 to 100% more than what a gun is worth from Knights Armament. A lot of people are willing to pay more than what a Noveski is worth, but Noveski, I'd say, is a little bit more readily available, especially in SBRs. If you know you want the gun, SBRs are the cheapest way to get into guns without overpaying for the most part, but they also are not worth anything secondhand because it is a pain to transfer NFA items. So one thing to think about, but I've kind of gotten into some of the Knights Armament stuff, but all the secondhand stuff is extremely expensive right now. And one crazy thing is, like, 5-ish years ago, I bought 40 Knights Armament rails from a buddy of mine. I was paying about $100 a piece. He was probably paying 50 to 75 a piece, but he was buying like these government overrun Knights Armament M4 rails and the M5 rails. So one was for a 20-inch gun and one was for like a carbine length gas tube. So I had about 40 of those, and I was selling them for $250 a piece. They were all new in the box with all the Knights Armament rail panels, the vertical grip, and everything. And it took me a minute to sell them at $250 a piece, but right now they're hard to get, so they're $300 to $400 a piece. But yeah, Knights Armament is consistently going up in value, but once it's readily available, it's about MSRP maybe, so that's something. And a lot of people in the Knights Armament community kind of hate when people price stuff too high. Obviously, if I see that brand new it's $800 and someone's selling it for $1,500, that sucks. I'm not willing to pay that. I would never want to pay more than what something's worth, especially if it's a modern production product. but some people are willing to pay double what something's worth at the time, and sometimes they make out and it goes even higher. Sometimes they lose their money and it gets even lower when it's more readily produced. So that's kind of a gamble, but Knight's Armament throughout the years has consistently retained value or gone up in value. HK stuff is kind of hit or miss. I bought my HKSP5 brand new, and I mean it was like $2,400, but then there was that time where they were like $3,000 to $4,000. But right now they're back in like the, I think around $3,000 price range, and HK is a well-known brand. So sticking with the well-known brands that have been around for decades, those are normally safe bets. Colt right now I'd say is not a safe bet as far as their new guns go, but right now used Colts, like 10 to 20-year-old Colt rifles, are actually selling pretty low for what they normally have gone in the past. So if you can get an old Colt right now for $1,000 versus a new Colt for $1,000, I'd take the old Colt every single day. And you can definitely find them for $1,000 or less. Gunbroker is another good spot to check, but you're going to be paying gunbroker fees, shipping fees, transfer fees. So something to think about. But I actually just recently looked at Colts, and I saw some older, like 10 to 15-year-old Colts selling for $500 to $700 on there. So if you're into that for under $1,000, I think that's something that, 20 years from now could be worth decent money. It's just, are you willing to hold it for 10 to 20 years for these prices to go up? But again, I bought my first gun in 2015, and considering, I mean, that's not even that long ago. I've been in this year will be 10 years for me. So, but I bought these like 5 or 6 years ago. I think they've gone up in value pretty good for only owning them for 5 or 6 years. But just something to think about. I would say don't get yourself in debt trying to buy guns as, potential investments. Like, do it if you have the means to do it while still taking care of yourself. Because if you have to put this on a credit card and then you have to pay interest on that credit card and it takes you forever, then you're kind of killing the deal. Or if you're pawning stuff, like, you're kind of killing the potential value of it because you're getting yourself more in it. So yeah, trying to give like decent advice without telling you to get in debt doing this. I really enjoy guns, and where I work I have the fortunate opportunity to get guns at decent deals. And like right now, one of the guns that I'm getting is a Polytech, paying like $1,500 for it, but Polytech is one like everyone, like all the older people that have talked to me said, oh, I remember when those were $400. So me knowing that in my head, I'm like, okay, well, $1,500 is a lot for an AK, but I don't ever see it going below, $1,000. So I'm willing to take that potential $500 hit, knowing I'm not going to sell it, but maybe 20 years from now it's worth $10,000. I'm not saying it would be, but you never know. Like I bought an IMI Galil for $3,200, which a lot of money, but I'd say that same Galil right now is worth about $5,000. So yeah, there's some stuff. If you want a $10,000 gun, you might have to buy a $6,000 gun and hope it goes up. If you want a $2,000 gun, you might have to buy a $1,000 to $1,500 gun and hope it goes up. You're really just, every single time is a gamble, but if you just kind of pay attention to the market and look at, what they've done kind of historically, it's kind of like people that sports bet, which I don't do, I don't know anything about, but they constantly are reading the market. So me working in the gun industry every single day of the week, I have that insider knowledge to help me make good decisions on that. And this is just me trying to give you, free information. You could take with it what you will, but I'd say if you have the money to spend, I would say buying a gun within the next couple months is better than buying a gun closer to election time, because naturally they are going to get more expensive. And then as far as ammo goes, ammo is a tricky one because I'd say right now it's still kind of high, but if you need it, then I would recommend getting it. I would say my goal was always to have 1,000 rounds per gun. I don't have that, like that. I want to, but I had the opportunities in the past. So we used to sell 9mm. We used to sell 500 rounds for $70 before COVID, like right before COVID. So I mean, only a few years ago. And right now, 9mm ammo is still consistently in like the $15 or higher range. But I have enough that like if another COVID happens, I'd say I have enough that I'm willing to like be good for a minute without selling it. But imagine having like 100,000 rounds on hand, and during COVID it was going for like $40 a box. I mean, that's money that could, potentially improve your life, or if you lose your job during an event like COVID, that's money to support you in the meantime. So yeah, ammo is kind of tricky. Right now 22 ammo is cheap again. I mean, it's like $5 or less per box of 50. I remember there was a time where 22 ammo was like $10 to $15 a box of 50, which is crazy to me. I think that's insane, but I mean, it comes and goes. The green tip 5.56 ammo was $1 per round at one point before COVID, and then during COVID it was $1 or more per round. Right now it's about the same price again as 55 grain, so that's always kind of hit or miss. But ammo wise, I'd say at least 1,000 rounds set aside for like major calibers like 9, 45, 5.56, even 12 gauge. I mean, it's cheap enough, might as well. I would say having 1,000 rounds set aside as a don't touch in case of emergency, you know, and then buy the ammo on top to shoot. So I think that's kind of a safe overall bet. And if you're not in a position financially, I mean, you just work at it as you can. Like, I don't buy stuff. I don't buy mass quantities of anything. I just buy it as I can. Our shop does layaway, so I do layaway. And if you have shops in your local area that do layaway, I'd say layaway is a good option. I'd try not to finance because you don't want to pay interest on anything you're buying. I don't pay interest on anything I buy because then it just puts you more into it. You know, if it's a deal at 500, but by the time you're paying it off over interest at $700, then you've kind of killed the deal a little bit. So these are all tips that I think would help you make good gun decisions as far as what to purchase. If you want, I'm thinking if I should like spend the time researching what I really think is going to skyrocket in the next few years, I can try to do that for you guys. But it's always a gamble because, I mean, stuff that's going to go up in value, there's not too much of it out there. Like right now, there's some mass-produced stuff, and I think if you can just get into some of it at decent deals, secondhand is going to be the number one thing that I recommend. If there's any questions or brands that you are curious about, I'll try to respond to some of the questions here for the next week or so. And maybe I'll do like another video about this kind of topic in the future here soon, because I think it's helpful knowledge and I'd like to help you guys make good decisions on that. So thank you guys for watching and stay tuned for my next videos.